And as you go back in time, these four fundamental forces are believed to converge to a single force. And we've already found that electromagnetism and the weak force do combine in such a way. And it's an interesting parallel that I mentioned last time without actually showing what the Baal Shem Tov says. So I'll first say that these, this idea to combine the forces is called the grand unified theory. And it forms the basis of what's called the theory of everything in physics. It's at the core of it, of this theory of everything, which is the greatest goal of all of physics, to find a theory of everything, because it's the most fundamental explanation of the world as a whole, at the most fundamental level. And, so it's the greatest goal of physics in a sense, it's the greatest goal of science in a sense, and comes the, Baal Shem Tov, hundreds of years before, and he says, "Whenever you pray or study, and with every utterance of your lips, intend to bring about the unification of a divine name. For every letter contains worlds and souls and godliness, and they ascend and combine and unite with one another. Then the letters combine and unite to form a word, and they are actually unified with the divine essence. And in all these aspects your soul is bound up with them, all become unified as one, and they ascend and bring about great joy and delight without measure. Consider the joy of a bridegroom and bride in this lowly physical world, and you will realize how much greater is the joy on such a lofty spiritual level." And so we say before many mitzvos, for the sake of the union of the Holy One, blessed be He, with His presence, to unite the name Yud-K with Vav-K in a perfect union in the name of all Israel. And so it's very interesting, that the yesod of Yiddishkeit seems to perhaps parallel this, also the greatest goal of physics or of all of science. And, again, these are things that are compelling. The probability of such a thing is very, very small. So a person should be careful, but at the same time to understand that these are things that are quite compelling. And, so we see now, there's, the four fundamental forces. We go back in time, we see unity. The volume, we see unity. The entropy, we see unity. It's like three arrows. They're all pointing toward unity. They're all pointing towards the Kadosh Baruch Hu as the explanation for the world, not like a universe. And we see unity further. When we say the whole world is just Hashem, right? So the concept of Judaism, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, like we say Hashem is one, that the whole world really, there's nothing besides Hashem, Ein Od Milvado. Like oneness is at the core of Judaism. So another place we see oneness is when you take an electron, and you take another electron, and you want to express them in quantum mechanics. So you can't really express them independently. What you have to do is to combine them in a symmetric way, in which if you want to write one, you have to write the other one, and it's in such a way that we see that these electrons are identical. They can't be separate electrons, they have to be identical, and same with all the electrons in the universe, you have to write them all in one function, in one wave function, that shows that they're all identical. Because if you don't do such a thing, if you don't include these electrons in a symmetric way, well, you're missing out because you're not going to produce what's called fermion pressure. See the fact that these electrons are identical and not just separate, electrons flying around, the fact that they're identical is necessary to get this phenomenon which we get, fermion pressure, right? So you put a bunch of electrons in a box, and it's true they'll repel each other because charges repel each other, but there's another force that repels, and this is a force that we measure, and it's called fermion pressure, and it's because all of the electrons in the universe really are one. Really, it's an electron, but the whole thing, they're all an electron. The electron there on the other side of the universe, the electron here, unless you express them as, one thing, you're not going to get the right results. Locally, in some cases, you can deal with a single electron, but in essence, if we're going to express things exactly, it has to be in such a way. And another concept is quantum entanglement. So you can have, an electron here and an electron, a kilometer away, or an electron on another planet. And if you've quantum entangled them, meaning you've tied them together in a sense where if you would measure the spin, which is a particular property you can measure in an electron. If you measure the spin of one to be up, so instantaneously you'll know that the other one is down. But if you measure the spin to be down, so instantaneously you'll know that the other one is up. And it's a complicated explanation, but you'll see that it's not just that we don't know whether it's up or down, and it turns out, and the other one for sure is down or up. But there's experiments, Bell's experiment, which has been done, which shows that it's really undetermined whether one electron is up or down, and whether the other one is up or down. So it's really that when you measure one electron, what you would think is happening is that some sort of information is traveling to the other electron, and it's telling that electron, hey, this electron was measured to be up. You did an experiment which resolved this one electron to be up. It could be you put energy into it. You affected the system. You observed it. There's different interpretations. And then, maybe, so this information then travels to the other electron a kilometer away or on another planet. And then it knows, oh, I should be down, right? But the interesting thing is the fastest that information can travel is the speed of light. And this effect happens instantaneously, right? So you measure one electron and instantaneously you've affected the other electron. And so the obvious interpretation of such a phenomenon is that all of the electrons are connected, right? Space is nothing. All the electrons together, you affect one, well, you affected the global electron. And it turns out that this is true with all particles. It turns out that different particles are also entangled. So really, the whole universe is one wave function in a sense, many would say, and everything is just unity, right? And there's more one can say about this, but in essence, unity is reflected everywhere in the universe, and as we go back in time. And so, if patterns of science in the world inform us of other patterns that we expect to see, so the most compelling result would indeed be that it's just Hashem and not a multiverse. So there are those who might also want to say that there's a hidden variable theory, meaning that there's a certain property or properties of the universe which cause these 26 fundamental constants to be as they are. So one, it's very possible that even if you had such a property, there still might be the question of, well, who set this property to be in such a way that it's going to choose these properties, these parameters to be as they are, these 26 fine-tuning constants to be as they are. In any case, you sort of run into the same problem as you do with the multiverse, in that either you're going to say that this property and the multiverse are natural, right? Meaning we see the natural world, these are things that are natural, not supernatural things. And so then you run into the similar problem that this property is anti-empirical, non-empirical. Just like the multiverse, if it is natural, so it could have been found, and it's not found, so too these hidden parameters or hidden properties, would be, would also be theoretically possible to find if it is natural, and we haven't found them, and so they're negative on the empirical scale. Alternatively, you could say that really they're outside of nature, right? So maybe you would say that the multiverse, it's not like anything we've seen. We've only seen this universe, so it's totally outside of our concept of nature. It's totally outside of our anything we might have observed. And similarly, you might want to say the same thing with with hidden variable theory, to say that we've never seen such a property like this that determines the fundamental constants of the universe. So if you wanted to say it like that, so then all of a sudden you have these two options which are outside of nature, outside of anything empirical or empirically feasible. Also, you have spirituality, or you have Hashem. You have something there that also would provide such an explanation, and which so too one can't do a experiment and measure that which is beyond physicality with the physical experiment. In which case, really, all of the options are equal in this sense. No, empirically, in this sense, maybe you could say that empirically they're all equal, and so then the question is, why would one prefer one over the other, and why among physicists might some say a multiverse, or to say this hidden variable theory, as opposed to just saying Hashem, to say that there's one God, there's a designer of the universe. And in fact, now here's what we have. We have empirically, there's a side to say that the multiverse and the hidden variable theory are empirically negative. So empiricism, they lose. There's Occam's razor, if you believe that it applies in such context. So in terms of Occam's razor, so the one Hashem wins, right? The multiverse doesn't win. Hidden variable theory. It could be that there's many properties required in order to get such constants. So also there, that's a place where you lose. And finally, as far as the patterns of the universe, so these also, are kilu, an arrow that points toward Hashem. And so I think it really does come down to this sociological, idea that the sociological truth that when people are in a majority society, so they take on these ideas, and what's naturally going to resonate with someone is something that's nature-y, right? Like if it's part of nature, so then it's empirically negative. But if it's, if we wanted to say, that the multiverse theory and hidden variable theory are beyond nature, so then why is a person trying to make them, the theory the person wants? So it's because they're nature-y, right? Like they feel like natural to us. We've seen physical matter, and they're like sort of physical, right? I mean, there's no protons in them, but it's like nature-y. It's like an aesthetic preference for nature, for something natural. And so there, I think, so we as Jews, I think we should just feel grateful. I think that's really what we try to take out of it. There were times when it seemed like the world had been around forever, so we felt, silly, And now we see that empiricism is on our side, and Occam's razor is on our side, and the patterns that we now know about the universe are on our side. So 3-0, and Baruch Hashem, this is kind of the place where we live right now, and I think it should strengthen our Emunah, and it's something that I think is something compelling, and it's a special thing, and I just kind of want to end with something that I heard from Agon Harav Nachum Lansky. He told me this just last week. So he and I were discussing the multiverse, and he told me, he said, many years ago I heard about this concept of the multiverse, and when I heard it, he says, I said to myself, and we're speculative. This is how the Rav said it, and I think it very much speaks to the essence of the situation and where we're at. And I hope that this was interesting to the viewer. I'll just kind of finish by discussing the concept that some would say that a multiverse, or some want to say that a multiverse has some sort of experimental validity, and they'll point towards the fact that quantum mechanically there's probabilities of things. So there's one interpretation of quantum mechanics amongst many, where they'll say that if there were two options for what the world could have done, so really two universes are created, and we're in this other universe, whichever universe we ended up in, that's what that corresponds to this this probability, and so basically saying that there's trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of universes created at every moment is how they want to interpret this probability. There's no evidence of this. My advisor used to tell me, he said, quantum mechanics, interpretation. He said, stay far away from it. There's no practical, empirical application of it. It's sort of this philosophical department. But so, I think that this concept really, the idea that you're creating more and more universes. So that's already kind of more absurd, because now you've created all these universes every second, every less than a second, every much less than a second. But also it creates this sort of absurdity what that would mean is that no matter what a person does, so it's creating such a universe anyway. So if a person would chas v'shalom kill a person, so according to this sort of atheist multiverse quantum mechanical mentality, so yeah, why not? Because there's already a universe where such a thing is happening. So then you should just enter that universe if you feel like it. And you hear how absurd and dangerous this sort of thing is. And so I would caution people away from this. Certainly it's not true that there's empirical evidence for a multiverse. And it's not true that there's empirical evidence for this interpretation of quantum mechanics. And Baruch Hashem, we have one universe, and we have it could be Hashem has created more universes. It's not a problem with Judaism, but as far as we know, there's one universe. Certainly there's this one world in which Hashem has placed us, and it's our only world. It's up to us to act as to be good people and to try to do the right thing at every moment, because this is our only world. Hashem gave us just this one world, and we can build it or we can destroy it. And so I want to give everybody a bracha that we should all be zeichet to be boinei olam, to really build up the world and to make it a beautiful, holy place where where everybody really feels loved and respected and treated well, and where we really make Hashem proud. And with that, I wish everyone a Freilich and Hanukkah. And I just wanted to come back and add a subtlety regarding Occam's razor. So some would attempt to suggest that Occam's razor it isn't preserved by the Torah, because they would say you have God, it's true, but you also have malachim. You also have angels. You also have certain miracles, which it's true. All of these are things that empirically are neutral. According to the Torah, these aren't things that we should be able to investigate today and find. These are things really beyond physicality. But they would say that's many things, not one thing. So that's not how Occam's razor works. Really, from Occam's razor, you have Hashem, say, and Hashem is one. And once you have Hashem in the picture, so now it's the end of Occam's razor, and Hashem's able to determine, what should be included in His world and what shouldn't be included in His world. And if not for that, really, the whole universe, the whole world, according to everybody, would break Occam's razor. So that's how Occam's razor works. And so some want to say with the multiverse that rather than all of these different universes just kind of existing, so you would have a sea of multiverses, like a sea from which these multiverses emerge. And so that I think theoretically could work in terms of Occam's razor, meaning that there could be one sea and all these multiverses come out of it. The challenge there is that that's better in terms of Occam's razor, but it's worse in terms of empiricism. Because not only now there are these multiverses that empirically, theoretically could have been observed in a natural world and haven't, but now there's also a sea, and this is a sea that is supposedly natural and theoretically could have been observed in such in a world, except it hasn't been observed. And so I just wanted to add that on and to further make a distinction. When we're talking about something that could have been observed and hasn't as being an empirical negative, so let's clarify that the regime that we're in is a place where we're talking about creating worlds, meaning naturalism. There's all of these different worlds that theoretically could have been. And there theoretically could have been a world in which among the properties that we observe is this important concept of that which sets the fine-tuning principles, or the multiverse. And this is sort of the one concept that has this extraordinary relevance to the question of Judaism versus naturalism. And furthermore, we're talking about, since it's these universes that theoretically could have been created, so you could have had a universe where every property is measured and everything in nature is observable. And so because that is an option, so that's why this is empirically negative, because there are theoretically such universes. Now, when we want to talk about something in archaeology, right, where the Torah says something and a person has not found it, say, so that's a different situation, because here we're talking about one universe, and this is the universe that we have, and it's one in which our access to archaeological information is quite limited, to the point that it's very difficult to try to reconstruct a reality, and things are very ambiguous when a person tries to do that. There's many things that one would expect would not be found. And not only that, but we know from the Torah that Hashem says we're not going to have miracles. We'll have an episode which explains why we don't see miracles today. But this principle that we'll talk about. So if we don't see miracles today, so also we're not going to dig up miracles. So this greatly limits the amount of things that we're going to see when we dig up the earth. And so it's really not a comparable situation. Archaeologists, spoken with many, and they agree that if you would take, what's archaeologically reconstructed based on what we dig up in the ground, and take that narrative and compare it with the historical truth, there would be tremendous divergences. We simply don't have any empirical way to test out whether this reconstruction is correct. You can dig up more things, but the issue is that our finds are coupled to other finds, and it's very difficult statistically to try to resolve such a thing. And it could be impossible. And so I just wanted to make that distinction here, because I know often who's going to be listening to this sort of podcast, and I think this is something that would be appreciated by that population, to make such a distinction. And I would just maybe conclude with something Rav Nachum Lansky cites, a famous article by Wigner, who was a famous mathematician, and he said, it's very interesting that a person could come up with some sort of mathematical theory, and later on we look into the physical world and we've found that mathematical concept, right? Like, it's not a given that the world should even be explainable with science or mathematics, and that it is to such a great degree. It's really a gift from Hashem, things that allow us to develop, cures, and to develop great technologies that can really help people. And it's just something to think about. It really could have been that we just wouldn't be able to describe anything mathematically. It doesn't have to conform to our math. It's almost like it was created sort of for us, in a sense. Of course there's a structure, but the fact that we can really observe the structure is really, really wonderful. And not only that, but we can understand it and investigate it to the point that we can measure like gravitational waves. You know what I mean? Like we can discover the Higgs boson, things that are so far beyond any conceivable evolutionary advantage to those who think in such a way. I think it's really something interesting, and I find it also to be something compelling. And I think we should also, about this, also to be grateful that Hashem gives us these capabilities, and even if a person spends a lifetime doing abstract math, Hashem makes it that, I know such a person, Hashem makes it that that there's a chance, a reasonable chance that it's going to come into physics and make a difference for people someday. And so. And actually, I feel like a little more clarification is necessary regarding this point by the archaeology, which we'll have at least one episode about Emunah Hashem to come. I just wanted to clarify also that the Torah itself, within the Torah, it speaks about the way of the world in which items decay. It says even clothing decays in the Torah, and it talks about things getting destroyed or getting unused and coming back into use. A person has to come back and reestablish a well, and cities get destroyed and reestablished. So the way of according to the Torah is that we have a world. If you would take the Torah and project into it a physical world, so it's one in which things do decay and things get reused and repurposed, and so there is no concept, there is no havamina. that you could, according to Judaism, according to the Torah, there is no concept of having a world in which everything that we would possibly want to observe, about the ancient world is just like they're in pristine condition. And just in reality, like we see, like from 60 years ago, like or 80 years ago, the Belchik concentration camp. So 2 people survived out of thousands and thousands. I think tens or hundreds of thousands, and the only way, hundreds of thousands actually, yeah. And the only way we know about it is because there were like 2 survivors. And if you go to the place today and you want to explore the archaeological remains, so you can't even see anything. The site is just totally ruined. And so this is sort of the this is sort of the difference. Whereas again, that this natural world, we could have had such a universe. There's nothing limiting us. We could have had such a universe in which every property was observed, or if not every property, at least this one that's so important, that's so relevant to understanding how these properties are fine-tuned, because it's such an indication of Hashem in the world. So this property certainly we could have had according to every universe. And with that, I actually conclude this time.